We're joined today by Blake Lynch, Democratic candidate for the 10th Congressional District. Why are you seeking this position?
It is an amazing opportunity to represent all of our families and those throughout the 10th Congressional District the right way. We believe that we really resonate and understand the issues, considering I'm the only candidate in the race who's born and raised in the district.
For those that aren't familiar, we have a statewide audience. What should our viewers know about the 10th Congressional District?
Sure. The 10th Congressional District is amazing. Based here in South Central Pennsylvania, encompassing Dauphin, York, and Cumberland counties, about 2/3 of Cumberland County. And it is exactly the right place to live and work and play. It's an amazing district that has so much diversity with regards to industry and commerce, as well as culture and education. There are 8 college campuses throughout the region. There are industry leaders that are here, such as Harley Davidson and Hershey and so many others. It's an amazing place to live.
What experience would you bring to Congress?
For us, it is about a lifelong experience of service. Prior to this, I served as the Senior Vice President of WITF Public Media, which is our local PBS and NPR affiliate. Prior to that, was a Director of Community Relations for the Harrisburg Bureau of Police and Deputy PIO for the City of Harrisburg. And also, serve on several nonprofit boards throughout the region. For me, it is about understanding what our families face every single day. With inflation being as high as it is, ensuring that, again, our local municipalities receive the services they need, and that advocate in Washington, having 2 boys in public school here, it is so important that, again, you have a representative that has not only been an advocate and a fighter all of his life, but one that understands the issues on the ground.
What initially interested you in public service?
For me, again, lifelong service. We were taught that in our church growing up. I attended Messiah College here locally, which is all about servant leadership. It's all about doing good and helping others. It's about serving a purpose bigger than yourself. And that has really been the compass what a lot of my mentors have taught me, and that has been led to their success. And we want to make sure that that is what we're doing. Again, serving a purpose bigger than ourselves, which are all of our residents, all of our seniors, all of those who do not have a voice, who need one in D.C.
What issues are the biggest concerns to the 10th District?
Oh my goodness, there's a mirage of different issues, but of course is, again, working and advocating for our seniors with prescription drugs. It is with healthcare costs and controlling those, bringing down the cost of everyday goods so that families, although it may look good on paper for what you may earn, it doesn't feel like it. I have a young son who's 9 and one who is 4, and I can tell you that a lot of families, like for myself, we have a second mortgage called daycare. And in doing so, having to pay so much every single month for a necessity to make sure that we are part of the economy and allowing it to grow, it's one issue that really faces a lot of families. When we talk again about, the opioid epidemic, and we talk about mental health services, these are the things that are being under-resourced but are so important to the success of our district. And we need to make sure, again, that someone is in that type of seat and position to, again, be a liaison and an advocate for those who need the help and those who can help provide it.
How would you describe the economy of the 10th District?
It's tough. It is tough right now. A lot of my friends are feeling it. There's so many different stories that we've been hearing on the campaign trail where seniors are splitting their prescription drugs, trying to make that decision of what they're supposed to do. One emergency, it could be the downfall of a family. One blown tire, one water heater breaking down, it could be over, and living paycheck to paycheck. So we need to make sure, again, that we bring costs down, work with our partners on both sides of the aisle to make sure that we can make those things happen.
How do you attract business to the district?
Having an experience in business, serving the only person in this race who actually has C-suite experience, helping to oversee this type of organizations. I have those relationships here. So whether they are with CEOs or other industry professionals, the relationships are already formed. So we'll continue to grow those. Being a part of the area regional chambers and advisory committees, I have for all of my career. So here in the Harrisburg area as well as statewide, understanding again how to grow our economy, working with those who are on the ground and in the C-suite is exactly what our families need.
Do you support raising the national minimum wage?
I support that as well, and I want to make sure that that is a standard for those who are in the 10th Congressional District and here in the Commonwealth as well. There's so many of our neighbors that have done that, and we should be able to do it too, and again, have that at a federal minimum.
What would you do to address the national debt?
For the national debt is, again, working with our partners and those who are respected throughout the country to help bring bipartisan solutions to those issues. And again, tackle the debt is too high right now. We have to bring down the cost, close the loopholes that are necessary so that, again, we can attract the right types of investments in the next generation.
Can you talk a little bit more about specific policies you'd like to do to do that?
I think the biggest thing for us is, again, working with industry leaders, forming those collaborative partnerships, finding out how we can work with, local trade associations, and then of course the Chamber of Commerce's and industry leaders who are trusted in those spaces, and ensuring that bipartisan approach is extremely important. We'll have more that will be posted onto our website.
Now, you served as Director of Community Relations with the Harrisburg Police Bureau. Can you talk a little bit about that experience and how that might influence solutions you might come upon to better the relationships between the police and the communities that they serve?
It was a humbling experience to work alongside our bravest every single day, the men and women who are running towards the danger. And I can assure you that having family who is also retired law enforcement as well, I respect that. Also those who have served in the military. While working alongside our officers every single day, we understood on the ground, again, that the opioid epidemic, that education, that with regards to business and industry, because if there is crime that's taking place that affects the local businesses, it affects insurance rates, it affects so many other things. Everyone wants to live in a place where they're respected and safe, and that is where you need to listen. So my grandmother always taught me, you have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so let's just try to make sure that we do that, and that's what our residents want. They want to be heard, they want to be valued and respected, and I believe that what the successes that we had while I was at the Harrisburg Bureau of Police, winning national awards, was really paramount for the success that we continue to grow forward for the 10th Congressional District.
How would this role with the Harrisburg Bureau affect how, as a member of Congress, perhaps you would address issues of crime?
It was a great opportunity to understand what our men and women face every single day. I respect them, I support them and endorse what they have to do, especially having family that's in law enforcement and also in fire. Having that bipartisan approach to where, being an advocate, but yet understanding that our families and communities do need more. I think having that, being able to build the bridge between the two and be as a liaison where there can be opportunities for law enforcement to be seen in a much more positive light than what they are now. There's a branding issue because there's a lot of things they're so humble. They don't think they need to brag about these things because it's part of the job. It's who they are. And again, to be trusted with a badge and a responsibility is a tremendous honor. And we want to make sure that also serving in the community with many of our partners who are part of nonprofits or religious leaders or educators is also an honor because they are part of service and duty as well. So I think bringing both together, finding what each does the best, and then advocating to uplift and support our communities is what's vital.
What specific policies would you support to lessen incidents of gun violence?
Well, I believe that we need to address red flag laws. I think that's very, very important. There were too many times where I either heard or saw situations of gun violence that ended in a negative.
If I can stop you right there, for those that aren't familiar with red flag, can you explain what that is?
Sure. It is flagging, mental health. It is flagging, situations of domestic abuse or anything like that to where they would not be able to have their firearm or receive that. I also served on the Dauphin County Child Death Review Team. So every child death under 18 was reviewed, and having those experiences and services and negative experiences. I've also helped families while they were burying young ones while being at the Harrisburg Bureau of Police. And the heartache and that breaks is something you don't forget. I'll tell you that. And so those situations that do take place, I am a gun owner as well, and I believe in responsible gun ownership. I am not for, eliminating anything like that. I believe that, when you're trusted with something, you have to be responsible, and that is what we need to do.
You're talking about different policies. One of the policies that's before the state government right now involves universal background checks. Is that something that you would support?
Absolutely.
Let's move on. You'd mentioned the issue of addiction as well. How should addiction be addressed?
It should be addressed as a mental health crisis right now. It is an epidemic. It is something, again, that is being under-resourced with regards to what we could be providing, and then under-education as well. When we talk about what doctors are prescribing to those that really need the services, they should be further educated about the uses and the side effects of that much more than just a sheet of paper. Again, consistent check-ins with that, and then also follow-ups, and cutting people off when they don't need it any longer. Ensuring that there's accountability with removal of drugs, and that they should, when they do expire or if they're no longer needed, they need to be discarded. So there has to be accountability with that, because then they could fall into the wrong hands.
On your website, you talk about your support for a fair funding formula in Pennsylvania. What specific ways would you like to address the funding formula, or are there other ways that you'd like to see funding perhaps dispersed differently?
Well, that is a state issue, and I know that the Pennsylvania Supreme Court has already ruled in favor of that. Our schools have been underfunded by billions. So from a federal perspective, I can tell you that I would support what Governor Shapiro proposes and the task force that is bipartisan as well to make sure that we're really funding our schools.
Would you make any other changes from a national standpoint on education policy?
I believe that I would have to get into the seat first, work with those who have been doing the work, and then try to make sure that we are fully supporting not only our educators, but because that includes more than teachers, but those who are paraprofessionals and others, but then also those, again, in the legislature, that they have the resources they need and the right guidance from the Department of Education.
What should be done to make higher education more affordable?
I believe that there are definitely loopholes that need to be closed, just as almost with everything. There's opportunities for growth in certain areas, and we need to expand workforce development and pre-K. We're talking about higher education, but I believe it starts at the beginning, and we need to assure, again, that people know that college isn't the only option. Workforce development, getting a job in the trades, extremely important to the success of our economy.
Would you support tuition debt forgiveness?
I believe that is something that I would take a look at in a partial form or format because there is a responsibility that we took the loans. However, there's importance to point out as well that when you're 18 and you're provided access to $100,000 in loans, that there has to come education with that and accountability. I couldn't get a $100,000 mortgage if I was 18, but why am I signed up for that? So there are things that I believe we need to definitely take a look at because as a millennial myself, although I'm old enough to be president, it is something that I had to face with student loan debt too.
How do you address healthcare disparities?
Social determinants of health are so deep. I served on a board, our local food bank board, and that is something that we continue to talk about and discuss. Food insecurity, mental health, homelessness, there's a lot of things to that. And so I think the biggest thing, again, is working with industry partners who are on the ground and those who are in other spaces to try to address the right way. But it's not a one-shoe-fits-all situation. It's not. Nothing is. But I think it's so important that we're empathetic and understanding of that, and again, work to close that gap because the disparity is wide. It really is. We're blessed to have great health care through my wife, employer, and then also mine as well. But that also is, again, being in a position that others need to understand that everyone has to do their part. When you have great employers that advocate for their employees and try to make sure they're cutting costs in other areas so that their employees can actually not have that stress of, healthcare system of not receiving great quality healthcare that should be afforded. I believe that that's really important.
What are your views on abortion?
I believe that is between a woman and her doctor, full stop. My wife and I both agree.
How do you balance the need for affordable energy and protecting the environment?
I believe that clean energy is very important. It should be clean, it should be safe, most importantly, and then again, it should be economically advantageous for the end user. It needs to be affordable. And so if those things are in place where we're holding those accountable with installation in pipelines and many others, but then also delivering natural opportunities to those end users, that is the way in which we're going to be successful.
Who or what do you see as the greatest threat to the United States?
Can you be a little more specific?
Is there a particular foreign entity or situation that you see as most concerning?
Well, of course, if we're looking on each side of the globe, of course, Russia. And then we also talk about China as well. We talk about manipulation with digital currency. We talk about many things. There is absolutely a threat from both of them. And I'm glad that Joe Biden and the administration is doing all that they can to ensure that we are eliminating those potential strongholds, again, in those parts of the world so that we can keep all of us safe.
Is Social Security solvent for future generations?
No, it is not. And we need to continue to try to make it better because when you pay into a system, you should be afforded that. And that's something that my grandparents and my aunts and uncles are even looking at now. They don't think it's going to be around fully for the rest of their lives, and they're in their 60s. But I know that for me, being in my 30s, I can understand, I'm not really, looking at depending on Social Security. Although I've been paying to it all my life, I just know that there's such an issue with it, and we need to make sure we do all that we can to fully fund and invest in those who've done that already. They are owed that.
Do you have any thoughts on what to do for future generations if Social Security does run out or runs below the current levels?
We'll continue to evaluate that and really try to make sure that we have the best position possible, because again, everyone deserves what they paid into, and that is just not fair.
Are there any particular changes you have in mind for our tax policy?
With regards to tax policy, closing loopholes that do not need to exist. We need to make sure again that there's accountability at the national level, to hold organizations, mind you, I said organizations and corporate entities accountable and responsible, because the employees are the ones that are helping to generate the success, not only in the profits, but also in the branding of that organization. And so they need to ensure that they are also properly paying their fair share. And I think that's very important.
Would you do anything to change our immigration policy, or perhaps how that policy is being enforced?
I think that is something where the current administration is doing a lot. Although there is way more that can be done, I do agree with that. I believe that there are experts who are in the space, and we just need to be a little bit more open to solving this in a bipartisan fashion.
What do you think is the most important issue in this race?
In this race here, my goodness, it comes to the next generation. When we talk about having a safe, clean, economically diverse district, that is so important, because the success of future generations relies on it. So we have to make sure that we're doing all that we can now, that we have a leader who has been proven and tested in the district, who's from the district, for the district, and always has the best of the district at heart, to ensure that they have what they need. And also that the generations who are currently here now, who's done the hard work and investments, can ensure that they can be rewarded and enjoy the fruits of their labor too.
What are you doing as a campaign to get your message out?
We are using all means and really, again, knocking on so many doors. We're in the middle of petitions right now, and connecting with everyone from across the district, from Halifax to Harrisburg, from York to Carlisle. It's been really an honor, and I'm really grateful to be a part of this race.
How significant of a role does fundraising play?
Very, very. We have to get the message out, but then again, also being very respectful and understanding that it is a economic slowdown right now. Inflation's a real thing. And so when you have working families that are doing their best to not only maintain their jobs, but then also the emergencies that present themselves, and ensure that their kids are doing their homework and so many other things like that, that is what's important. When you're empathetic and understanding of that during your fundraising calls, people remember that. And I think that is a big thing. When you come in and lead with empathy, when you show your servant leadership, people can see the receipts of what you've done. So for me, being a lifelong resident of this district, I've never left the district. I've always been for the district. We live in the district and will continue to do so.
How do you distinguish yourself from the other candidates in this race?
The biggest thing I just highlighted again, the energy that I bring to this race, the youth and the vigor that I bring to this race, understanding that I'm an asset to the ticket. When we have, certain concerns others may have with regards to everyone else on the ticket, driving this local issue for us is so important. Being from here, for here, an advocate for here, investing here, raising our kids here, my children are in our public schools here. I've spent a lifetime of service here. It's not just about working, but it's about serving, it's for service as well. So on the boards and organizations, during COVID, when I was at the Harrisburg Bureau of Police, we led food drives every single week for 18 months. Harry Connick Jr. actually came to Harrisburg and recognized us for the good work we did. We served over 2.2 million pounds of food, over 17,000 families. And that was before any cameras even came into the mix, because that's what you do. When Governor Wolf tried to keep all of us safe during COVID, 100% of the Harrisburg School District was eligible for free or reduced lunch. And so our kids were not receiving breakfast, lunch, and also dinner, because many of them would go to an after-school program like a Salvation Army or a Boys and Girls Club. And so what were our kids going to do? So we had to do something. So our officers, teachers, volunteers got out every single week for at 8 different sites around the city and provided food. And we worked with the Harrisburg School District to get that done. That's what people need, is a proven leader who has already done the work. And that's just one example of many, but understands the issues that our community faces. When your mom is a Steel High Roller and your dad is a Harrisburg Cougar, and my wife and I are Susquehanna Township Indians, we understand what schools are and how important public schooling is. We understand how important higher education is, going to Penn State and Messiah College, now Messiah University. I've never left the district. My car's been damaged by the same potholes yours has. And so when people from the outside try to come in, they may not understand it. Their heart might be in the right place, but there's something about understanding what that really is about.
What concerns do you hear the most when you talk to the constituents of the 10th District?
It's really about cost. For them, it's things seem so expensive. They also talk about democracy and really what Scott Perry has done. And so we want to make sure that, again, coming from WITF, where trusted journalism is so important, ensuring that democracy and people are held accountable for their actions is extremely important to me. I believe in that. That is what we were founded on. That is what the Constitution is about. And we need to make sure that those who are a part of it are, held accountable if they don't follow that.
Why are you a Democrat?
Because democracy is so important to who we are. It's about working families. It's about giving those who may come from different backgrounds the opportunity to succeed. And I'm really a pro-family, understanding what our community is, and moderate Democrat. I've always been in the middle. And so being able, actually in our logo, there's a bridge. And it is, again, bridging the gap, bridging the divide, working to have that strength, that trust to hold up many others, to bring people together. And that's what we've done, is continue to bring people together.
What accomplishments are you most proud of?
Being a husband and a dad. It's amazing because my father passed away when I was 3. He passed away from a brain aneurysm at work. And my mom had to raise us on her own in housing projects in Steelton. And it took a lot, and seeing that every single day for her sacrifice and what she's done. So having the ability to marry my high school sweetheart, we've been together ever since, and raised 2 amazing boys that have been through so much. We talk about healthcare, the issues that, address as a family that just change in an instant. I can tell you that is the greatest accomplishment, and being blessed to do that.
Why would you like voters to elect you to serve in Congress?
The biggest thing is I'm from the community, and I'm one of you. I've never left. As I just said, my proudest accomplishment is my family. And that is the biggest thing for me with legacy. This isn't about me. It's about serving a purpose bigger than myself. And that's what all of us should be doing. I have the relationships already here. I'm looking forward to growing more and continuing with the energy that I have to continue to serve all of our residents throughout the entire 10th Congressional District.
Blake Lynch is the Democratic candidate for the 10th Congressional District. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.